Chapter 1855 Teen Battle. Zhang Yi, Lu Karen, and Yang Xinxin waited for a while, and then more and more people appeared in the White Room one after the other. Just as he had hoped, Liang Yu's figure appeared in the room. The three of them glanced at each other and let out a long sigh of relief. Now, 4 of us have advanced to the next round. This is good news. According to the ratio of the number of people who entered this area, the people we brought here have become the stepping stones for most people. That's quite interesting. But what kind of trials await us next? Zhang Yi said with a smile. Liang Yu walked over and recounted her experiences. The main reason she waited until now to appear was because the first opponent she faced was too good at hiding. That person was one of our own, Liang Yu said, looking at Zhang Yi and quite speechless. A member of the Volt Shadow Troop, your biggest fan. I had a chase with him in the jungle, like 2 primitive people, and it took a whole month to end the battle. Zhang Yi touched his nose and couldn't help exclaiming, "You're right, it does have a bit of my style. No abandonment, no giving up. Maybe if you drag it out, you'll win?" The few of them chatted idly, keeping a tacit distance far enough away from the other mutants. But the 4 of them gathered together, it was still easy to become the focus of attention. Yang Xinxin said, "Next, if we are still going to fight each other, I have a proposal." Several people looked at Yang Xinxin. Yang Xinxin said, "The 4 of us will be ranked in order of priority. First is Brother, second is me, third is Karen, and fourth is Teacher Liang. This ranking is based on my observations of this mighty god-level civilization administrator. Everyone is so close, so there is no need for any polite conversation." Yang Xinxin directly explains the reason for the priority ranking. Everyone listens intently, with their ears pricked. In the eyes of the mighty god-level civilization, combat ability is not the highest priority. This can be seen from the fact that after entering the Gates of Light, the administrator brought everyone's strength to the same level. Therefore, Liang, who is purely a martial arts expert, is ranked 4th. The previous levels tested our thinking about life, our luck, and our responses during skirmishes. Therefore, I think the next trial will be even more complicated and difficult than the previous ones. It will even force us into a dilemma. Among the remaining 3 of us, my mind is important. Therefore, I ranked Karen 3rd, me 2nd, and my brother 1st. Do you have any comments? Liang Yu nodded and said very seriously, "It's a reasonable ranking, I don't have any comments." Lu Karen also laughed and said, "We are a team. Besides, my brother has always been our pillar." Zhang Yi touched his nose and looked at Yang Xinxin and said, "I don't think my priority is the highest. If we can pass this test, any one of the 4 of us can. As long as we can keep that important reward in our team, we can ensure the safety of everyone." Zhang Yi sighed after saying this, and said in a joking tone, "Actually, sometimes I really want to find a powerful big shot to hang out with. If you obtain the inheritance of a mighty god-level civilization, you will suddenly become a very powerful figure. Then I can just lie around and relax." It seemed like a joke, but there was also a serious component to it. Yang Xinxin smiled, but her eyes were serious. "Brother, you are the soul of our team. Xinxin's greatest desire is to see you become more and more powerful." Zhang Yi smiled faintly, "We'll have to see what kind of test awaits us next." In the end, the number of people in the field did not reach 20. The familiar voice sounded again, and the figure of the young girl in red appeared in this white space. Along with her appeared several other figures. Ling, the Knight of the Cross Mask, stood behind the young girl in red. On the other side, there were also 2 knights covered in silver-gray armor. Their armors looked quite different from those of the Knight of the Cross Mask. One had a crown of thorns on its head, while the helmet on the other's head looked like the head of a rabid dog. Are there really that many left? The voice of the Knight of the Cross slowly sounded out. They? The voice of the Knight of the Rabid Dog carried a strong sense of contempt. A weak race, not a single decent one among them. Can they really shoulder that burden? That no longer matters. The voice of the Knight of Thorns carried a distant sense of history, as if speaking was a waste of effort. We have waited for a long time, but have never found the answer we seek. We can only wallow in endless despair and loneliness. Now that we have chosen to abandon everything and let our existence fade into history, we no longer need to consider the world. Just then, Ling's voice rang out, a voice Zhang Yi had never heard before, cold like the flying snow in winter. If you don't try, how will you know if it's impossible? Even if we're leaving, we have to leave something interesting behind. Whatever, said the Knight of the Cross Mask indifferently. Their conversation did not attempt to avoid outsiders in the slightest, and the voices were not transmitted through sound, but directly into everyone's brains in the form of radio waves. Zhang Yi and the others were in a daze, not knowing what they were talking about. However, some of the people participating in the trial on the spot looked thoughtful. The king of the Tsang era, Ichigard, reverently folded his wings and bowed to the four knights. I, Ichigard, the survivor of the Tsang era kingdom, am willing to use everything I have in this life to carry on your will. The four knights in the conversation did not react, as if they had not heard anyone speak at all. The voice of the insignificant being was too small, like the chirping of a bug, and there was no need to pay any attention to it. The administrator ignored the knight's conversation and looked at the remaining people who had passed the rigorous selection process with a calm gaze. Next, there are 4 trial levels. The number of people remaining in the arena is 16. You will be divided into 3 groups and compete against each other in teams. The rules of the trial are as follows. Each group will have 5 to 6 people, and you will each guard a city. Before she finished speaking, the administrator 3D projected a huge ancient city in the middle of space. The city looked to be only about 10 kilometers in circumference, and the city walls were simply made of huge stones. There was just a huge statue in the very center of the city, and apart from that, there was nothing else in the city. Your job is to protect the statue in your city and destroy the statues in the other 2 cities as much as possible. The destruction of the statues means that all the mutants in the city will be eliminated. In addition, she said, raising her hand, and a large number of soldiers appeared in front of the city, wearing armor and carrying a variety of weapons. Each city has 5,000 soldiers at your disposal. The strength of these soldiers is controlled at a ratio of 1 to 1,000 among the mutants. Yang Xinxin and Zhang Yi both thought to themselves, so, this is not a simple confrontation of military power, and it is necessary to consider how to maximize the value of these soldiers. The administrator said, time is limited to 7 days. After 7 days, if more than 2 city statues remain, everyone will be eliminated. Yang Xinxin and Zhang Yi thought to themselves, in other words, even defending the city is not an option, one must actively go and fight other cities. Yang Xinxin had a general idea of what the administrator wanted to test in this level. In the previous levels, the test was all about personal qualities. However, there are too many elements to consider in this level. Teamwork and the ability to lead troops in battle. Yang Xinxin thought about this and asked coldly, what about team formation? Is it assigned at random? The administrator looked at Yang Xinxin and said indifferently, no, you can choose your own partners. You have half an hour to decide on your team. The team must be formed with 5 to 6 people. Zhang Yi's eyes lit up when he heard this explanation. Because at the moment, he already had 4 of his own people. In other words, he only needed to recruit 1 or 2 more people to form a team. Then his team would, in any case, be in his hands. But the thoughts of the others became complicated. Looking at Zhang Yi's team, which already had 4 members, they knew that these people could not be scattered. Even if Zhang Yi asked the others to join other teams, the other teams would not want them. Because these people have the potential to be undercover. After the manager explained all the rules, he said, now, get started. Zhang Yi pulled a few people over to him at once. The 4 of them formed a circle and had a private conversation through the chat channel of the intelligent system. Zhang Yi spoke first and said, this test is a team battle, which is very advantageous for us. The problem now is who we choose to be our teammates. Yang Xinxin, however, said, brother, I'm afraid there won't be many people who are willing to partner up with us. Zhang Yi looked at Yang Xinxin, waiting for her to analyze the situation. Zhang Yi had already made up his mind. Since this was a team battle and it involved 3 teams, relying on force alone would not solve all the problems. They would definitely need to rely on strategy, so for this level, he would give Yang Xinxin control of the battlefield. Letting the professionals do what they do best, knowing how to make good use of people, this is what a team leader should do most. Yang Xinxin explained, there are some things that the administrator's rules don't specify. For example, can people in the same team fight each other? Can people in a team betray their own team to help another team? She narrowed her eyes as her 24-core brain raced, analyzing the complex situation in front of her like a game of chess. From what I know about the administrator, there will be no restrictions outside of her rules. So these actions are allowed. Lu Karen understood what Yang Xinxin meant. You mean, instead of all of us staying in one team, we should go undercover in other teams? Yang Xinxin looked at her and said, you understand a little of what I mean, but not much. If you can think of something like this, naturally other team members can think of it as well. The key point I'm trying to make is that anyone joining our team is taking a huge risk, because even if we are teammates in this group battle, after the next level, we will still be in a competitive relationship with each other. So joining our team means that after we win, we may be killed by us working together. Zhang Yi rubbed his nose. Possible? After listening to Yang Xinxin's words, he almost subconsciously thought of this approach. Moreover, he would show no mercy at all. After all, even if you kill each other here, you can resurrect in the outside world. Everyone is here for the treasures of a mighty god-level civilization, so there's no need to show mercy. At the first opportunity, they will eliminate all potential competitors. That could be a bit of a problem, Liang Yu frowned. She had already noticed that the mutants were all looking around, wary of each other, and especially the way they were looking at the 4 of them was full of apprehension. I'm afraid no one wants to team up with them. But there's no need to worry about this. The administrators are here to prevent this kind of thing, so someone must team up with us in order to pass to the next level. She paused and mused, this may also be part of the trial. The ability to recognize people is important in being able to pick the right partner to go all the way with. And working with dangerous teammates is also an important test of a person. Zhang Yi nodded, being able to work with someone you like is nothing, but working with someone you clearly dislike, someone you even want to kill, and putting aside your prejudices to achieve the same goal is the most difficult. But there is a downside, Yang Xinxin said. Since no one wants to join our group, the person who comes last will only be the one left over. Zhang Yi frowned. According to your analysis, there can be at most 5 people in our team. Because whenever there is a choice, they will not join our team. And the person we get in the end, we have to take, but he must be considered the weakest among these people. This will greatly weaken the strength of their team. At this time, this is a crucial part of the test that the administrator wants to put us through. Yang Xinxin said indifferently. Zhang Yi followed Yang Xinxin's gaze and looked at the administrator waiting for them coldly in the distance, as well as the 4 knights towering above them. The ability to build a team includes recruiting talent. Zhang Yi heard this and once again scanned the field among all the contestants. His top choices were obviously King Arthur codenamed Night King, Olive the Bishop codenamed Michael, Odin codenamed God of War, Morana codenamed Goddess of Winter, and the others, because they all had the formidable strength of a bishop level and were all commanders who could lead an army. In a war like this, their abilities were outstanding. However, it was unlikely that these people would join Zhang Yi's team, constrained by Zhang Yi's driving force. Besides, they also understand that Zhang Yi will do something like kill them afterwards. If we have to settle for second best. Zhang Yi looked at Thunder God Pern again, and shook his head. Although Alexei was his old friend, at a time like this, he would obviously stand firmly by Mirana's side. After all, nothing is more important than the greater good of the country. After thinking about it for a long time, Zhang Yi's gaze fell on the white Labrador. Supernova, Brian, an unreliable bishop-level mutant in control of gravity. At this moment, Brian stood there blankly, obviously a little confused by the situation. Most people were hesitant, and apart from those who originally belonged to the same faction, no one was in a hurry to choose an ally. Because allies were also potential competitors. It was not impossible to be stabbed in the back during a battle. Zhang Yi thought for a moment before directly addressing Yang Xinxin. Xinxin, you have full control over this trial. I will not intervene in anything you do. You can choose your teammates and decide on the tactics to be used. Zhang Yi made this decision and spoke it out in less than 5 seconds. At that moment, Zhang Yi deeply realized the difference between himself and Yang Xinxin when it came to making decisions in the face of such complicated problems. I'm not the type of person to do this, so I shouldn't pretend to know what I'm doing. Zhang Yi's words were also endorsed by Lu Karen and Liang Yu. Yang Xinxin's intelligence is recognized as being extremely high among the residents of the shelter. Yang Xinxin was also unceremonious. She looked at Zhang Yi and confirmed something once again. Brother, you said that you would unconditionally support me no matter what I do. Are you sure? Yang Xinxin's eyes shone with an unusual radiance, which made Zhang Yi feel a little strange. But without even thinking, he nodded and said, that's right. Even if it requires me to make sacrifices, I won't hesitate. Although he knew that Yang Xinxin's character would not allow her to do such a thing, these words were not false. He truly felt from the bottom of his heart that there was nothing wrong with letting a genius like Yang Xinxin obtain the treasures of a mighty god-level civilization in the end. After all, what Yang Xinxin has is also his. Zhang Yi is not good at calculating the smallest details, but he is never confused about major matters. Xinxin understands. Yang Xinxin smiled brightly at Zhang Yi's trust. So she leaned into Zhang Yi's ear and said, then, go and win Brian over. Zhang Yi said, Xinxin, I can do that. But I'm a little curious, why would you choose him? Lu Karen and Liang Yu had the same expression. Brian usually gives the impression of being carefree and not at all serious. Choosing him as a teammate would make people feel uneasy. Yang Xinxin explained, because among these people, even amongst dogs and other creatures, it has the least ambition. King Arthur, Morana, and the others will not easily give up the fight for the final treasure. But Brian, on the other hand, can be talked into other interests. And his abilities are inferior to his brothers when it comes to a duel, so we can manipulate him more easily. When choosing a teammate, it is not necessary to choose the strongest, but the one who can best integrate into the team. Brian is the best choice at the moment. Zhang Yi nodded and went over to find Brian. Brian was acting like a human at the moment, resting his chin in one hand and surveying the surroundings with a critical eye, as if he was also struggling to choose who to make his teammate. However, it was clear that he was not the first choice for most people. Too strong a worry would be uncontrollable, and too weak a worry would be a hindrance. In short, it was indeed difficult to choose 4 or 5 people from these people they didn't know to form a team. Zhang Yi walked up to him and held out his hand in an inviting manner. Hey, Brian, you're alone, aren't you? Brian frowned and asked in return, am I not a person? Am I a dog? Zhang Yi nodded. Yes. Brian smiled awkwardly twice and shrugged his shoulders, saying, hi, man. I'm not in the mood to joke with you right now. You have to understand, I'm at an important fork in the road in life. I have to carefully examine everyone and choose who to make my teammate. Zhang Yi said, don't bother thinking about it. You and I hit it off right away. Why don't you join my team? Looking at the friendly smile on Zhang Yi's face, Brian was full of doubts. But, well, I've heard a lot of stories about you. To be honest, man, your reputation isn't very good. And you guys are a team in itself. If I join in, won't that be a bit? Heh. He voiced his concerns. Everyone is a 1,000-year-old fox, so there's no need to talk about anything here. Zhang Yi said directly and frankly, let me be clear. I need someone to come over and make up the numbers for me. But I don't know the others very well, so after thinking about it, it's pretty good to let you join in. As long as you join my team, the benefits will definitely not be lacking for you. Moreover, as a dog, Are you really that interested in the things left behind by the mighty god-level civilization? Brian's eyes wandered a little, and he sighed, saying, "Actually, I'm not that interested. It's mainly my owner, Professor Da Vinci, who is interested in the trials of this mighty god-level civilization. Damn it, even now, none of us know what this trial is for. To be honest, I'm not that interested either. Who knows what I'll get in the end." Zhang Yi patted it on the shoulder and advised with a smile, "So, nowadays our team has 4 people. Even considering probability theory, our chances of getting the treasure are the greatest. In that case, as long as you join us and help us win the final victory with all your strength, I will definitely not treat you unfairly." "Well, haven't you always been a single dog? In that case, I promise to help you find a few beautiful female dogs with intelligence in the future. After the end of the world, you'll be lonely as a dog, too, right?" Brian's ears pricked up immediately. "Hey, what are you talking about? I'm not that vulgar. I'm an extraordinary dog with lofty ideals and intelligence." He extended his paw and shook hands with Zhang Yi firmly. "I'm only joining your team because I think you're a trustworthy person.